Hello, good afternoon. My name is Ara Kumson and I will be your host for the next half hour on Election Brief on your election headquarters. Our lead stories: President Akufo-Addo begins two-day working visit to the Western region. Meanwhile, the Roads Minister Kwesi Amoako-Attah hints of the commencement of the Takoradi PTC interchange project, which will begin in September this year. Also, NDC flag bearer John Dramani Mahama reiterates the party's position to ensure a peaceful election, but however says the posturing of the government raises questions about its commitment to a violent-free election in December. And also in this bulletin, Savannah regional executives of MPP petitioned police to investigate what it describes as violence-inciting comments by the NDC National Vice Chairman, Sofo Azoka.
Azoka simply exhibited his ignorance about the relevance of research to election. It is clear he knows nothing about election except noise.
We are live on your DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 144, and on your digital television because we're free to air. We're also live streaming on myjoyonline.com. Stay tuned. Thanks for staying with us here on your election headquarters. We begin from the Western region because President Akufo-Addo has begun a two-day tour of that region. Whilst there, he's expected to inspect various projects and cut sod for the construction of some projects. Well, earlier, Roads and Highways Minister Kwesi Amoako-Attah hinted of the commencement of the Takoradi PTC interchange project, which will begin in September this year. That's just next month. Well, addressing journalists ahead of a two-day tour of the region by President Akufo-Addo, he said the project will herald a new dawn of road infrastructure for the region as 45% of road networks are in a very poor state.
On to earnest across the nation, Takoradi and for that matter, Western region, you have got your fair share of it. There is an asphalt overlay going on, and under the dynamic leadership of this young, handsome regional minister, supported by his able deputy, in the road sector, among others, and I know other sectors are going on. But since I'm here for roads, I want to assure the people of Takoradi, the people of Western region, that His Excellency President vision of 2020 as year of roads is ongoing, and the region will continue to have these fair share.
Let's go on the line now. Our correspondent Ina Thalia Kwanzaa has been with the president. Ina, has the president arrived in the region yet, first of all?
Yes, Araba, he has arrived. He arrived around 9 a.m. this morning. So we set off to Ajam in the Western region, where he went to inspect a road from Anchori to Ajam. Then from there, we went to science projects in it. Now we are at Krofo in the Lembele district, where he's also going to cut sod for the construction of the road from Esiama to Krofo.
And Ina, bring us up to speed on what else the president is expected to do whilst he is in the region. We understand he'll be there tomorrow as well. Hello, Ina. If you can hear me, bring us
and commissioning a community.
Go ahead.
Hello, Araba.
Go ahead, Ina.
Yeah, so from here we'll be going to Jura, where he'll be cutting sod for a road construction, and then commissioning a community mining project at Aboso. From there we go to Takoradi, and in Takoradi he's going to cut sod for the reconstruction of the Takoradi market circle.
All right, Ina Thalia Kwanzaa is our correspondent in the Western region. And as you heard there, she's been bringing us an update of President Akufo-Addo's tour of the region. He'll be there for today as well as tomorrow, inspecting projects and cutting sword for the construction of other projects as well. Let's move to the Savannah region now. And executives of the MPP there have petitioned the police to investigate what it describes as violence-inciting comments by NDC National Vice Chairman Sopho Azoka. In an audio recording that has gone viral, Sopho Azoka is heard inciting party supporters to attack any MPP member seen handling a data collection booklet. Listen to him make the statement in Sola Tuna Kalba district regarding an ongoing data collection exercise embarked on by the MPP in that region.
This is a clear indication that the NDC has been defeated across Savannah region ahead of them and had no alternative than to run for a cover up from their national executives. Data collection is a routine exercise by all political parties. We as a party believe in the importance of data for election purposes, especially the 2020 election is about data. Data rules the world, and that's what we in MPP believe in. We never prevented any political party from collecting data and see no reason why tasks of the MDC will go around attacking members of the MPP assigned to collect data, ransack his room and took away all his valuable, including data collection booklets. Nonetheless, we the MPP in Savannah region will not sit unconcerned for the NDC who are known to be shedding blood to cause mayhem in our region and vow to deal ruthlessly with anyone who comes after any of our supporters. Azoka simply exhibited his ignorance about the relevance of research to election. It is clear he knows nothing about election except noise.
So that was rather the MPP Savannah Regional Chairman Suleimana Idrisu, and he was obviously responding to that comment by Mr. Azoka, which we will bring you later in our subsequent bulletins. But essentially what Mr. Azoka was saying was that if any of the NDC members chance upon the MPP members holding these booklets, they should deal with them. And so those comments attracted that news briefing that was addressed by the MPP Savannah Regional Chairman there that you just heard. And so the chairman also called on the security agencies to take note of Mr. Azoka's comments, and he's also urging the NDC members not to engage in violence, which he says might result in reprisals.
And won't call for killing of anyone, not even NDC person, because we need numbers to win elections in Savannah region. We call on the security agencies to, as a matter of agency, to take note of the growing threats from the NDC and its lazy executives. We have data collection materials in the Sola Tuna Kalba constituency, and we authorize to bring finality to such unfortunate trials on the lives of our hard-working supporters in the region.
Let's turn our attention on NDC flag bearer John Dramani Mahama, who has reiterated the party's position to ensure a peaceful election. He, however, says the posturing of the Akufo-Addo administration raises questions about its commitment to a violent-free election in December. Addressing the chiefs and people of Mepe in the North Tong district on Monday to kickstart his 4-day tour of the Volta region, Mr. Mahama observed that the government does not seem to be interested in making the December general elections peaceful.
During the last registration exercise, they attacked our people in Banda, killed 2 people. In other places, they attacked people, injured them. A whole minister of state said she fired a gun at a registration center. Nothing has happened. So when you look at all these incidents, you can predict what it is they intend to do in the election. And indeed, they've said it. Several of their senior members have said that Ayawaso West Wuogon was just child's play, and that it was a dress rehearsal, and that the real thing is going to be on voting day. We don't want violence. We are not going to take vigilantes to go shooting and injuring people. But we want you, the community yourself, to protect your ballot box. We commit the ballot box in your hands, that you make sure that nobody comes and disrupts the voting in your polling station, because your vote must count.
Meanwhile, Mr. Mahama is continuing his tour of the Volta region today, and correspondent Ivy Setoji joins us with the latest. Ivy, where has the former president's tour taken him today? What has he been saying?
Okay, so the former president is currently in South to Pipe, and from there he's going to go to Afro, where he will be the Afro traditional leaders. Now, earlier on when he was in Afifa and Underhaya, he spoke and Akashi. He told the Chiefs and people of Akashi that they should make sure that they protect the ballot. The NDC will not send vigilante groups to protect the ballot boxes, but they, the residents themselves, will have to do that for themselves. They owe it to the party, they owe it to government and their own self. So right now, and he's asking us to protect the ballot. The NDC cannot say vigilante groups, unlike the. So right now, is moving to Kempstar. We have to talk about the other impetus, some other issues.
All right, Ivy Setoji is our Volta regional correspondent, bringing us up to date on former President John Dramani Mahama's visit of the region. It's day 2 of his visit to that particular region. Now, the Ghana Police Service is assuring that it will not shield anyone found culpable in electoral violence. The assurance comes after sections of the public, including the National Peace Council and the opposition NDC, raised concerns about the lack of prosecution of perpetrators of violence in the just-ended voters' registration exercise. The Peace Council has called on the police to provide weekly updates on the progress of investigations conducted. George Amo is Executive Secretary of the National Peace Council.
If you are familiar with investigative processes, at every stage, there are stages that you get to. For example, you pick information. If you have any new information, you let the public know that I have this additional information, and this is the next step that I have to take. It can be a weekly update just to let people know, especially in times that we find ourselves.
But speaking to JoyNews after the launch of legal education on prosecution of electoral-related offences for selected police officers, Director General Legal Kofi Boakye said investigations are underway and at the appropriate time, updates will be provided. The police, however, says a weekly update, as suggested by the Peace Council, is not feasible.
The registration just ended, and the electoral task force chaired by the Inspector General of Police are now doing the assessment. They have the subcommittee to do that. Now they are here to present their report to the IGP. And when such reports are presented, we will make it known to the public.
Would you say it was largely peaceful? Did the parties behave themselves?
I think largely it was quite successful. There were a few infractions which we have taken note of and which we will address in due course.
Okay, so it brings us to the issues of our investigations of these infractions. We've had issues in Banda, we've had issues in Nkrakan, and then also the famous issue in Kaswa, for instance. The concern is that we are not seeing where we are when it comes to these investigations. Where exactly are we?
All these things are actually under investigations. Like I said, the elections ended last week. And now IGP has asked for a compilation of all these election-related offences. And the specific ones you have mentioned, a subcommittee task force has been set up which is dealing with such things. And I think in due course, you will know what has happened.
But these delays, for instance, people have said that it's a form of more like shielding For instance, how Akumsin, because by now we should know where exactly we are. The Peace Council has had cause to even say that we should have weekly updates on some of these investigations. Then we know that something is actually happening.
You know, investigation is not just a happenstance. It's a process. And you need people to come, give evidence, and based on such evidence, if a prima facie case is established, then you can go to court. So I think you have to have faith in the police. RG is very much concerned about all these things and doing everything possible. And this is even manifested in the fact that we are doing this workshop, not for all policemen now, but we are now doing for the commissioners. So that when the commissioners are abreast with we build the capacity of commissioners. Then from next week, we're going through every region to it. So you see that the police is very much interested, and we have prioritized the prosecution of electoral offenses as part and parcel of our role to control the elections and make it successful. So in due course, definitely you have the results of what has happened. Nobody is shielding anybody. And don't forget, like I said, we just finished the registration, and all issues emanating from the registration activities is going to be taken care of in due course.
And you're still here on Election Brief on your election headquarters. Now, flag bearer hopeful of the Progressive People's Party, William Dorkpo, has filed his nomination, promising to be president for all. For the first time since the inception of the party, Dr. Papa Kwesi Indum will not partake in the presidential elections. Mr. Dorkpo, a businessman and a former parliamentary candidate for the Ayawaso West Wogon constituency, was the first among two others to present his nomination to the executives of the PPP at the party's headquarters. While addressing the press after filing his nomination, the flag bearer hopeful, among others, said he will provide quality education, revoke the controversial Ijapa agreement, and also ensure that Ghana has not more than 60 ministers if he's voted into power.
Collateralizing our gold reserves for $500 million US because the incumbent wants cash to spend and win the 2020 elections flies in the face of good economic management and good accountable governance. In the new Ghana, that will never happen. The Ejapa agreement shall be revoked. The Ejapa agreement shall be revoked in my administration for lack of transparency in the national interest and possible fraud. How can we so quickly forget about PDS and so soon create another one for looting and sharing? That will not happen in the new Ghana. Fifth policy, we shall provide quality education for every Ghanaian child. My administration shall standardize school facilities from kindergarten to senior high with libraries, toilet facilities, classrooms, kitchen, housing for teachers, playgrounds, etc., and ensure free, compulsory, continuous education in public schools from kindergarten to senior high, including computer training. An integral part of this objective is to significantly increase vocational training so that all school leavers can gain employable skills. The compulsory part of this policy will be enforced by the education police that we shall establish once the PPP comes to power. Policy 6, energy for industrialization. My administration shall execute solutions with a sense of urgency to meet the energy needs of industry and domestic use and make Ghana a net exporter of power again in 4 years. To achieve this objective, We will provide tax incentives to enable development of alternative sources of fuel and power, such as biofuels and solar.
Now, the coalition of independent political presidential aspirants has announced that Kofi Karanting, one of them, has been selected to lead the coalition into the 2020 elections. Mr. Karanting and 5 others took part in the just-ended Imani Africa JoyNews presidential debate. One of the individuals who took part in this debate and was a part of the coalition, Marique Kofi Ghani, has issued a statement saying he's no longer part of the group due to disagreement over leadership. The coalition has since issued a statement announcing Mr. Karanting as its leader. Now, the governing MPP says in spite of COVID-19 pandemic, government has prudently stabilized the Ghanaian cedi. The party argues that there are strong steps adopted by government to strengthen the cedi. Director of Communications for the party, Yaboabeng Asamoah, rejected claims that government has failed to arrest the fall of the cedi.
Nana Addo Akufo-Addo has demonstrated exemplary leadership. And leadership is about engaging the people, giving them hope, listening to them, and having a picture of where they want to go and leading them in that direction. Nana Addo Akufo-Addo has done exactly that. And I'll take about 2-3 minutes of your time to demonstrate it. Nana Addo promised free SHS. Coming into government, we realized there was a huge gap in terms of debt, in terms of DUMSO, the energy sector crisis, in terms of the financial sector crisis that John Mahama had just admitted to in Parliament as having created. Nana Addo had to solve those problems before the economy could stabilize. Nana Addo didn't say that because there were those problems which were not part of his manifesto, he was going to sit back and not implement his manifesto. He demonstrated leadership. He kept faith with us. He bit the bullet. He solved the problems that John Mahama refused to solve after creating them. He solved DUMSO to the extent that today,
then the citizens agree.
Yes, but today...
They had laid the foundation before you came to power.
Foundation?
Right.
That's why they laid the foundation for Terminal 3. If we hadn't continued, Terminal 3 would not be there.
So you give them the credit for laying the foundation for solving those?
We can't give them that credit because they couldn't solve it. They ended up buying equipment that we have to pay for, take or pay contracts. They chose to invest in generation capacity at very high prices instead of investing in running costs, fuel, and those things. That would have kept the lights on. We have not only paid for their excesses, their profligacy, we have spent some excess of 4.6 billion in the energy sector to stabilize the sector, but we have also managed it to the point where today in Ghana, we are giving away free electricity. When there was DUMSO, we were paying bills. When we didn't have the electricity, John Mahama forced us to pay bills and told us at some stage that if we wanted more electricity, we had to pay more. Today, we have not only stabilized electricity supply, we're actually giving it away free. That is leadership.
But
that is capacity.
It's a promise you made to the people of this country.
The cedi
you haven't fulfilled.
It's a relative matter.
Should Ghanaians punish you for failing on your...
And go back to John Mahama. We haven't failed. We haven't failed on the cedi. The cedi is relative. And all the experts will tell you that it has depreciated slowest over the past 3 years, given all the administrations. And why is that? Because we are taking strong steps to diversify this economy, moving it from mere taxation to production. And that is what is shoring up the cedi. Because the cedi, not being an international currency, will always be under pressure from international levels. Okay. The cedi will be healthier the more we ground production in Ghana. And so when you see that Volkswagen is in Ghana, when you see that 1D, 1F is going on, then you begin to realize that the cedi is going to consolidate over time. But the biggest thing, and it's not the MPP saying it, these are experts, independent experts, telling us that the cedi has depreciated slowest and the least in the next first 3 years compared to the other governments which have been in charge of the Fourth Republic.
Unfortunately, that's all time will allow us for today's program. That's a wrap for Election Brief. Remember, you can join us every weekday, 1:30 to 2 p.m. here on your election headquarters. I'm talking about the Joy News channel. We're also live on myjoyonline.com as well as several other platforms. For more news, log on to myjoyonline.com. Sports Today is up next.